an independent editorial defense analysis focused on Australia's strategic environment.
The strategic arithmetic of modern air power is facing a critical inflection point. The traditional pursuit of exquisite capability is colliding with a hard reality. The reality of limited mass. For decades, the Royal Australian Air Force has operated on a specific doctrine, one that privileges technological superiority over numerical scale. This logic culminated in the acquisition of the F-35 Lightning II. While this platform offers unprecedented situational awareness and stealth, its acquisition and sustainment costs have created a structural vulnerability. The loss of a single airframe represents a strategic liability, a liability that is difficult to absorb and nearly impossible to replace within the timeline of a high-intensity conflict. The emergence of the MQ-28A Ghost Bat, particularly following developments observed through late 2025 and early 2026, suggests a fundamental rethinking of this paradigm. It moves away from a linear replacement model. Instead, it points toward a system of distributed lethality, where crewed and uncrewed assets operate as an integrated whole. This shift is not merely about adding a new drone to the inventory. It represents an attempt to decouple the generation of combat power from the constraints of human physiological limits and pilot training pipelines. Consider the successful firing of an AIM-120 AMRAAM by a Block II Ghost Bat in December 2025. This marks a transition. The platform is no longer just an abstract concept of a flying sensor. It has become a tangible combat asset, capable of kinetic action. From an operational standpoint, this validation allows planners to envision a tiered force structure. Here, the MQ-28A assumes the riskier elements of the kill chain. By positioning these uncrewed systems forward as the vanguard, the Air Force can effectively extend the sensor reach of the F-35 and E-7A Wedgetail. Crucially, this keeps the expensive crewed platforms beyond the engagement envelope of adversary long-range air defense systems. The economic implications of this force structure are central to its strategic viability. With a target unit cost estimated between $10 million and $15 million US, the Ghost Bat introduces a level of attrition tolerance that is simply absent in the F-35 fleet. In a contested environment, trading an uncrewed system for significant tactical gain or intelligence is a calculable expense, whereas risking a crewed fifth-generation fighter is a potential strategic failure. This concept of attritability does not imply that the assets are disposable in the manner of a cruise missile. Rather, it suggests that their loss does not result in a catastrophic degradation of overall system capability. The allocation of an additional 1.4 billion Australian dollars by the government to accelerate production indicates a recognition that fiscal efficiency in peacetime must be balanced against resilience in wartime. Furthermore, the industrial footprint of the MQ-28A program introduces a layer of sovereign capability. It distinguishes this initiative from other major acquisition projects. Unlike the F-35, on which relies on a tightly controlled global supply chain where Australian industry is a contributor rather than an owner, the Ghost Bat is designed and manufactured domestically. The activation of the production facility in Toowoomba creates a localized supply chain. Theoretically, this is more resilient to global logistics disruptions. This sovereign control grants the Royal Australian Air Force the latitude to modify the platform's software, integrate new payloads, or adjust mission parameters, all without the requisite delays associated with seeking approval through foreign military sales channels. This agility is critical in an era where software updates are as vital as hardware maintenance. However, the integration of such systems introduces complex challenges regarding the command and control architecture. And the doctrine of the loyal wingman relies heavily on the assurance of the data link between the crewed leader and the uncrewed follower. In a battle space characterized by intense electronic warfare and spectrum denial, the reliance on constant communication exposes a vulnerability. If the tether is severed, the system's utility depends entirely on the sophistication of its autonomy. While the Ghost Bat has demonstrated advanced autonomous flight, the delegation of lethal authority remains a significant doctrinal and ethical hurdle. The transition from a human-in-the-loop to a human-on-the-loop command structure requires a level of trust in artificial intelligence that has yet to be fully battle-tested in a high-stakes environment. There is also the question of interoperability within the broader alliance framework. While the MQ-28A is an Australian initiative, its utility is maximized when it can integrate with United States Air Force assets, particularly within the context of the American Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program. The divergence in development paths between the Australian Ghost Bat and U.S. counterparts could technically create friction, that is, if interoperability standards are not rigorously aligned. The Air Force must navigate the tension between maintaining sovereign control over the Ghost Bat's development and ensuring it remains a plug-and-play asset within a coalition-integrated fire control network. The risk exists that divergent software architectures could relegate the Ghost Bat to a national asset with limited utility in a fully integrated coalition force package. The evolution of the Ghost Bat from a technological demonstrator to a cornerstone of future air combat also highlights another limitation: the constraints of the current personnel structure. While the system reduces the need for pilots, it increases the demand for data analysts, network engineers, and mission commanders capable of managing swarms rather than flying individual aircraft. This necessitates a transformation in human resources strategy, one that may be as difficult to implement as the technological acquisition itself. The bottleneck shifts from the cockpit to the command center. This requires a cultural change within the Air Force to value the system manager as highly as the fighter pilot. Ultimately, the MQ-28A Ghostbat should not be viewed as a direct replacement for the F-35 or any specific crewed platform. Rather, it should be seen as a mechanism to restore the mass that modern air forces have lost. It represents a hedge against the rising cost of air superiority and the proliferation of advanced anti-access area denial systems. The trajectory of the program suggests that the future of Australian air power will be defined not by the performance of individual apex predators, but by the resilience, connectivity, and collective mass of a distributed operational system. The success of this transition will depend less on the aerodynamic performance of the drone and more on the ability of the defense establishment to adapt its doctrine, logistics, and command philosophy to accommodate a force structure where the machine is the primary combatant and the human is the operational architect.